was to give disenfranchised fellow citizens a voice in current political, economic, social, and cultural issues with an empowering, sustainable, and restorative language. Everybody's got a little light under the sun, under the sun, under the sun. As we enter our third year, we are delighted that KBLA Talk 1580 consistently emerges as the talk station of choice for African American listeners. In a vigorous public opinion research study, the 2023 African American Media Issue Survey finds that for the second consecutive year, KBLA Talk 1580 remains the most trusted, credible, and reliable media source in Southern California for African Americans and beyond. Furthermore, 80% of those surveyed agree that outlets like KBLA Talk 1580 provide honest and authentic content about the issues most important to the Black community directly from Black journalists who understand the issues that need to be addressed. At KBLA Talk 1580, we remain committed to curating conversations that matter to you. Thank you for your continued support. We're unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. The station that sounds like the city looks. The city looks.
Friday edition of Areva Martin in Real Time. If you're just joining us, you missed a great conversation in the first hour. I encourage you to go to the archives on YouTube and check it out because it got a little bit hot. It's Avi Bernard. I'm here with you every Friday from 4 to 6 p.m. Pacific. Whether you're listening on the app, the KBLA app, or watching on YouTube, or listening if you're here in LA on 1580 AM. So coming up later this hour, we're going to be having a really important conversation with three influential female filmmakers who are attacking the bodily autonomy rights issue that we have been facing specifically in the last year since Roe versus Wade was overturned. Their film "Give Me an A" talks about all areas of abortion and women's reproductive rights, and I can't wait to have that conversation. But first, here's what you might have missed. President Biden has approved the provision of U.S. cluster munitions for Ukraine, with drawdown of the weapons from Defense Department stocks due to be announced today. The move, which will bypass U.S. law prohibiting the production, use, or transfer of cluster munitions with a failure rate of more than 1%, comes amid concerns about Ukraine's lagging counteroffensive against entrenched Russian troops and dwindling Western stocks of conventional artillery. Cluster weapons explode in the air over a target, releasing dozens to hundreds of smaller submunitions across a wide area. More than 120 countries have joined a convention banning their use as inhumane and indiscriminate, in large part because of high failure rates, and those munitions litter the landscape with unexploded submunitions that endanger both friendly troops and civilians, often for decades after the end of a conflict. The Texas man who fatally shot 23 people at an El Paso Walmart in a targeted attack against people of Mexican descent was sentenced Friday to 90 consecutive life sentences. The man agreed in February to back-to-back life sentences when he pleaded guilty to 90 federal counts, including 45 hate crime charges. He traveled almost 600 miles from North Texas to El Paso before opening fire on shoppers on August 3, 2019 with a WASR-10 rifle. Minutes before the attack, he posted a hate-filled racist screed online in which he referred to an invasion of immigrants to the United States. He has self-identified as a white nationalist, of course. U.S. officials granted full approval to a closely watched Alzheimer's drug yesterday, clearing the way for Medicare and other insurance plans to begin covering the treatment for people with the brain-robbing disease. The Food and Drug Administration endorsed the IV drug Leqembi for patients with mild dementia and other symptoms caused by early Alzheimer's disease. It's the first medicine that's been convincingly shown to modestly slow the cognitive decline caused by Alzheimer's. A Washington D.C.-based Bar Discipline Committee concluded today that Rudy Giuliani should be disbarred for frivolous and destructive efforts to derail the 2020 presidential election in support of Donald Trump. The three-member panel declared in a 38-page decision that Giuliani claimed massive election fraud but had no evidence of it, and by prosecuting that destructive case, Mr. Giuliani, a sworn officer of the court, forfeited his right to practice law. His ultimate disbarment or other penalty would be decided by the D.C. Court of Appeals. And finally, Twitter has threatened to sue Meta over its new Threads app, which Mark Zuckerberg has openly billed as a rival, claiming the company has violated Twitter's intellectual property rights. In a letter to CEO Mark Zuckerberg, a lawyer for Twitter said the company has serious concerns that Meta has engaged in systematic, willful, and unlawful misappropriation of Twitter's trade secrets and other intellectual property. When we come forward, we are going to be talking with several of the filmmakers, including the executive producer of Give Me an A. I watched it on Amazon this week. I encourage you to do the same. And after this conversation, I have a strong feeling that you will want to. So when we come forward, we are going to be having that discussion. We are going to be talking to Natasha Halevi, Lauren Escandon, and Francesca Maldonado when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
She's the real deal in real time. You're listening to Areva Martin in real time on KBLA Talk 1580.
Are you looking to steer your career in a new direction? Driving for Culver City Bus can be your ticket to a long-lasting career with excellent benefits and paid training. Culver City Bus is looking for customer service and safety-minded bus operators to join the growing team. Culver City Bus offers on-the-job training starting at $19.10 per hour, uniform allowance, and health benefits. Culver City Bus is a great employer. Let Culver City Bus connect you with an essential service job. If you enjoy driving, seek real opportunities for career advancement, and passionate about making a difference in the community, then you are invited to join the Culver City Bus team. Start your journey today by submitting an application at culvercity.org/jobs. For more info, visit culvercitybus.com or call live customer service operators at 310-253-6500.
I have diabetes. I'm at risk for pneumococcal pneumonia.
I have asthma. I'm at risk too.
If you're 19 or older with chronic conditions like asthma, diabetes, COPD, or heart disease, or are 65 or older, you are at increased risk for pneumococcal pneumonia. Ask your doctor or pharmacist about Prevnar 20, pneumococcal 20-valent conjugate vaccine, a vaccine that can help protect you against pneumococcal pneumonia in just one dose. Even if you've already been vaccinated with other pneumonia vaccines, Prevnar 20 may help provide added protection. Prevnar 20 is approved for adults to help prevent infections from 20 strains of the bacteria that cause pneumococcal pneumonia. Continued approval may depend on a supportive study. Don't get Prevnar 20 if you've had a severe allergic reaction to the vaccine or its ingredients. Adults with weakened immune systems may have a lower response to the vaccine. Side effects include pain and swelling at the injection site, fatigue, headache, muscle, and joint pain. For full prescribing information, please call 1-855-213-2138 or visit Prevnar20.com.
KBLA Talk 1580 salutes Black Lives Matter grassroots. Founded in Los Angeles in the wake of the acquittal of Trayvon Martin's killer, for a decade now, BLM organizers have stood on the front lines in the fight for racial justice, with a mission of bringing an end to state-sanctioned violence against Black people. The movement is celebrating its first 10 years of beautiful struggle with a People's Justice Festival on Saturday, July 15th, right here in Lamert Park. Join Black Lives Matter grassroots for a day of food, scholars, music, dancing, and direct action, celebrating progress, power, and impact, uplifting 10 years of standing against state-sponsored violence and white supremacy in all its forms. For more information, visit blmgrassroots.org. And happy 10th anniversary, Black Lives Matter, from all of us at KBLA Talk 1580.
There's no time like the present. Let's get back to more of Areva Martin in real time on KBLA Talk 1580.
And it is the Friday edition of Areva Martin in Real Time. I am very pleased to be joined now by Natasha Halevi, Francesca Maldonado, and Lauren Escandon, filmmakers of the film Give Me an A. Ladies, welcome. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having us.
It's absolutely a pleasure. Natasha, I want to start with you. You are the executive producer of the film, and I want to go around and get each of your reaction when on I believe it was June. I'm sure you know the date better than I do. June 22nd, maybe.
June 24th.
June 24th, exactly. So
June
Natasha.
24th, 2022.
Yeah, so
Ooh.
it's been almost a year exactly. So what were your thoughts, Natasha, when that ruling first came down?
Yeah, I mean, it's like some form of like trauma that happened, I think, to a lot of people when they heard the news. Like, wow, what a hit. We all knew it was coming. We all had the leak from the Supreme Court. Plus, you know, we'd already had like a previous, you know, 2 to 4 years kind of knowing that the states were setting up to be prepared for Roe versus Wade to be overturned so they could hit their trigger laws and shut down abortions immediately. So we knew the news was coming, but when it actually happened, it felt like there was no way something like that could possibly happen in the United States. And I sort of, you know, found myself literally on my bathroom floor kind of coming to, sitting there just like shaking and wondering, you know, like realizing that I had just dropped. And to realize that there could be such a physical reaction from something I knew was coming was really shocking. And I thought, like, whoa, what's wrong with me? And I started talking to other women, and I was definitely not alone in this. And this is a reaction you'll hear from lots of other people. You know, just utterly shocking.
Yeah, I really I think you described that really well. Even though we were expecting it, knowing the makeup of the Supreme Court, it still was just hard to believe that it actually happened once it actually did happen. But Francesca, what were your thoughts? What was your initial reaction when that ruling first came down last year?
Yeah, I think myself and almost every woman that I knew woke up and just pretty much started crying as soon as they turned on their phones and saw what was happening. It was pretty devastating. It was definitely trauma. Tasha's right with that. It was very shocking to hear. You know, we knew it was coming, but again, to reiterate what Tasha was saying, we really didn't think that would actually be happening. You know, my mom was on the front lines fighting for abortion rights in the 70s, and we're still having to fight that same fight today. So.
Yeah, and you think that we have the milestone Roe versus Wade decision, and you think we've kind of overcome that hurdle, and then 50 years later, just to go back, it's unbelievable. But Lauren, I wanna get your take on what your thoughts were, or what your reaction was when you first heard about Roe versus Wade being overturned last year.
Well, I think that my reaction wasn't that different from my peers. I felt this sensation of being paralyzed. But at the same time, I feel that one of the things that I have been always very conscious about is that I don't want to have kids. That was a decision I took a long time ago. Mm-hmm. So at that moment when I heard that, for me, it was mostly thinking about the women that were going to be entrapped by this dismantling of the law and feeling for them more than for myself. And I think that was a moment that I really understood the type of empathy that I was having for the pain of others. And it was just, I felt like I needed to do something.
Yeah, because it's not just saying that you can't have your own reproductive rights. It's also telling you the kind of life you can live. Because as you said, Lauren, you knew that you didn't want to have kids. And so for women in your shoes with that same perspective, now the Republican lawmakers and the craven right-wingers who were so insistent on Roe versus Wade being overturned, they're saying, well, now if you, and they're so judgmental with it. Now, well, if you don't want to have a baby, just don't have sex. Just don't, just abstain. That's kind of, they try to control your whole life. And who are you to tell me mm-hmm. not to go out and have a good time and go have sex and whether you're being responsible and, it's just, it doesn't matter to them what kind of life you're living. If they don't approve of it, they want to tell you exactly how to live your life. And so, as you said, Lauren, you had to do something, and that kind of brings us to why you all are here, because of your film Give Me an A. And this ruling came down on, as we just said, June 24th, 2022. We're almost exactly a year later. You came out with this film at breakneck speed. So, Natasha, I want you to tell me about how it seems like you just started writing this film right away and contacting all the other directors, because there are 17 shorts within this film, and they all have just a collection of really wonderful female directors. And so it seems like a lot to put together, but it happened so quickly. So can you tell me what that process was like? The ruling comes down, and the next day you have this idea, or how did that happen?
Yeah, it's kind of crazy looking back on it. It was really wild. I think we were I was just really in shock for like a few days. But what I started seeing was in my social media, my friends who are a lot of filmmakers, actors, like really amazing creators, they were all having a response to the Dobbs decision that was like very unique and very different. And it was different from like the specifics of what I was feeling. And then in text threads with women filmmakers that I have, I was seeing that the responses and the reasons people were mad and the reasons people were angry and upset and fiery, and they were all different. And, that was really important because there are a lot of different aspects to Roe versus Wade being overturned. So I was lucky to have a group of people in my life that were vocal within like my friend group. So I saw, wow, I know these amazing creators. A week later, we all got on a call together and we agreed to, do something about it. Instead of just sort of living in our sorrow, we could express our feelings and share it with other people so they could also, feel empowered. So a week later, we got on a call. Within a couple of days, we had pitches for different ideas and saw how they could all fit together. Within, a few days after that, we had initial scripts written. And long story short, within a month of Roe versus Wade being overturned, we started filming. And we filmed in 10 days in Atlanta and in Los Angeles. And we just felt like we were moving so slow because it was so urgent and so important to say the things we wanted to say and to start conversations and encourage other people to start conversations. So while on one hand it's very fast, on the other hand it felt so slow. And there's sort of like this aspect to this whole situation that there's like the sprint because you want to get out in front of it and stop it from getting worse. And then there's also the like marathon because this problem is not going away anytime soon, which we've seen over the last year because it's only gotten worse.
Yeah, and it continues to get worse, and new laws pop up in different states. And as a lot of us said, myself included, when that decision came down, that they're not going to stop there. They're going to continue to take more rights away from other people, and that's exactly what they've done. So, how did you come?
Yeah, huge. Like this is like the gateway, right? Like this is the gateway thing. Like you start taking rights away from a group of people for a reason. Oh, this group of people, they have vaginas. We're going to take rights away from them, or they have ovaries. This affects anyone. This affects a lot more than women. This affects people of all genders. And we take rights away from these groups. Then we can start taking rights away from other groups. In the Dobbs decision, at the end of it, it says we're going after contraception and same-sex marriage next. And what did we see last week from the Supreme Court on Friday? They did it. They went after same-sex marriage. So nobody's lying. They're telling you they're going after our rights. They're telling us that they're going after groups of people for what they believe in, who they are, what they look like, what color their skin is. Like, it's like they're saying they're coming for us.
Yeah, and this has been the Supreme Court's dream, or I should say the right wing's dream, for so long, to do this very thing, to take away women's bodily autonomy. Lauren, why do you think it is that they are so obsessed with telling y'all how to live your lives?
Well, honestly, I don't have a theory about that. I just feel that one of the reasons this is happening is because it's easy to target women. Because when you target women, you're targeting half of the population of the entire country, right? So it's as Tasha and you were saying, like, this is just the first group that they're purposely tackling and attacking at this moment, but that's not where they're going to stop. At the same time, I think that it has a lot to do with the actual groups that are going to get affected with this, which are mostly the women of color. It's mostly Black, Indigenous, and Latino communities, not just the women, but the communities that are going to be affected by these changes, because it's going to affect their incomes, it's going to affect their quality of life, it's going to affect their health care, it's going to make it unsustainable for these communities to actually thrive. So I think there is a whole agenda behind our vaginas and our freedom, is the groups that they're targeting with this law.
Yeah, and very well said, Lauren. And you know, especially I'm glad you mentioned women of color, because you know, Black women have the highest rate of death,
miscarriages, and difficulties of delivery.
Yeah, during childbirth, and even it doesn't really. It seems to go across even financial lines. You know, Tori Bowie was a Olympic medalist, and she just died recently during childbirth. And Serena Williams has talked about, you know, despite being in peak health and having all the money in the world, still having a hard time and having a very precarious childbirth. And so, and this is what
that goes beyond
us
biology too, Abby. It goes beyond biology. It's not just about the fact that they're Black and that their genes and their biology works a little bit different than other groups. It's about the fact that the way the system has been created is for us to get less care than other people. Is for the belief that we can, and I say we because I'm half Black, is we can tolerate more pain than other women. It's all these beliefs that have been installed in our society that is so systemic that makes the healthcare, even if we have the best healthcare in the world, to be way less than other people, than other groups.
It's true, and it goes across all illnesses. I mean, I was on the radio earlier this week talking about Alzheimer's, and even caregivers who have family members who are experiencing Alzheimer's. They are not believed when they tell medical professionals what symptoms they're having, and it happens in childcare. And as you said, Lauren, we are perceived to be superhuman, and we can tolerate pain more, and so we're believed less when we talk about our experiences and when we're in pain, and we're not taken as seriously. And that's part of why Black women die more during childbirth than any other group. Let's bring it back to the film though, because as I was saying, just breakneck speed. I know you said it, Natasha, that it felt like it was going really slow, but to come out with the film from conception, from idea to it's in the can in a year, that is unbelievable. That is
so much less than a year. We were screening at film festivals within 3 months of Roe versus Wade being overturned.
Jeez.
And, so we have had like a full festival run before we were able to take it to everyone, to the public, because, we're an independent film. So, there's a specific path. So we really did. Everyone, everyone was so generous with their time and their energy and their stories, and everybody who gave like their story, and every actor who participated, and everyone who like put a light up or did anything, like was giving so much of their souls and their spirits and their heart to this film. And not just to the film, like they were giving that because they wanted to give it to other people. They wanted to give the stories to other people and share empathy and share, a relationship and share camaraderie, So it was a lot of work, and it took, people giving.
So let's talk about some of the stories that are in this film. Francesca, you directed the short called Traditional. And so tell us what Traditional is about.
Yeah, so Traditional is a dystopian look on the unchecked power that the government would take in the medical sphere, and kind of a reflection of how they make a habit out of using the medical space to abuse Black and brown women into assimilating.
Okay, so
basically,
that's
the broad strokes, but basically it's about my character going through IVF, but if IVF were a government-sanctioned program that, is effectively experimenting on her.
And if the government can tell you when you can and can't have an abortion, then why wouldn't the government be in control of who gets to do IVF and what is involved in IVF? So, and I when I'm telling people about this film or talking about this film with other people, I kind of describe it as like Black Mirror, but all the stories are about abortion. And so
Yes.
Black Mirror is like this really just intense, like futuristic kind of technology based series. I guess this is how I'm describing it in my own words, but it just deals with situations that you normally would say, oh, that's kind of far fetched, that might not happen, but what if it did though? And now that Roe versus Wade has been overturned, a lot of these situations that you all detail in Give Me an A have become a lot more possible, and some of them downright probable. But when we come forward, I do want to talk more about traditional and of course the other films. Lauren is the director of the film called The Last Store, and Natasha is the director of Abigail. And there are some very well-known faces in this film, and we're going to talk about those when we come forward as well, right after this update of news, traffic, and sports, right here on KBLA Talk 1580.
Areva time is the right time. More of Areva Martin in real time when we come forward.
I'm Esther Dillard, and here's the latest from the Black Information Network. A former assistant principal is suing Donda Academy, the private school founded by Ye, the artist formerly known as Kanye West. The lawsuit says the school was in violation of several health and safety codes and claims teachers faced retaliation after reporting issues. Donda Academy first opened as Yeezy Christian Academy in 2020. House Republicans in Washington are demanding a briefing from the Secret Service on the cocaine found at the White House. The committee wants to look into White House security procedures. Oversight Committee Chair James Comer called the incident unacceptable and shameful. A small bag of cocaine was found Sunday night in a common area of the West Wing. The Biden family was away at Camp David at the time. And the Mega Millions Powerball jackpots combined are now at $1 billion. And that's the latest. I'm Esther Dillard from the Black Information Network and BINnews.com.
Downtown LA on the 10 eastbound right before the 60 got a crash blocking the right lane. It's already a slow ride coming away from the 405. In the Sepulveda Pass on the 405 southbound at Getty Center Drive, they're clearing a stall from the middle lane over to the right shoulder. Encino, 101 eastbound right at Reseda Boulevard, got that stall clearing to the right shoulder, but you're still going to be on and off the brakes eastbound all the way from Las Virgenes Road.
Hi, I'm Kyle at Blindster.com. If you're like many people, you may think custom blinds is a job for expensive professionals. Well, at Blindster, if you have a tape measure and a screwdriver, you can install our custom blinds and save big. Plus, we guarantee they'll fit. Blindster.com.
Is this the This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
If you haven't had a chance to see Victor Wembanyama in a game, tonight is your opportunity. The number one pick is making his unofficial NBA debut in the NBA Summer League in Vegas. Wembanyama will join rookies and free agents on the San Antonio Spurs against the Charlotte Hornets. The game has been sold out for a month. The 7'4" Wembanyama is the most celebrated rookie to come into the NBA since LeBron in 2003. Tip-off time tonight is 6 p.m. on ESPN. The Dodgers open a 3-game series tonight against the Angels at Dodger Stadium. Tomorrow night at 7 here on KBLA Talk 1580. Join me and my co-host Neil Scarborough, the editor extraordinaire, for Out of Bounds, the show where we bring some flavor to the world of sports. You can be a part of the conversation at 1-800-920-1580. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson. More news, opinions, and conversation when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
2 years ago, on Juneteenth 2021, KBLA Talk 1580 launched with a promise to give disenfranchised fellow citizens a voice in current political, economic, social, and cultural issues with an empowering, sustainable, and restorative language.
Everybody's got a little light under the sun, under the sun, under the sun, under the sun.
As we enter our third year, we are delighted that KBLA Talk 1580 consistently emerges as the talk station of choice for African American listeners. In a vigorous public opinion research study, the 2023 African American Media Issue Survey finds that for the second consecutive year, KBLA Talk 1580 remains the most trusted, credible, and reliable media source in Southern California for African Americans and beyond. Furthermore, 80% of those surveyed agree that outlets like KBLA Talk 1580 provide honest and authentic content about the issues most important to the Black community directly from Black journalists who understand the issues that need to be addressed. At KBLA Talk 1580, we remain committed to curating conversations that matter to you. Thank you for your continued support. We're unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. The station that sounds like the city looks. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
Maisha Cairo here with a quick recap from my time at JP Morgan Chase's Advancing Black Wealth Tour. There were speakers Ian Dunlap, Damon John, Lynn Richardson, MC Light, Don Kennedy, to name a few. Take a listen to what Justin Grant, Community Development Lead at Chase's Advancing Black Pathway, let's see what he had to say.
So I'm Justin Grant. I lead community development and national partnerships for JP Morgan Chase's Advancing Black Pathway strategy. And so we're focused on strengthening the economic foundation of Black communities, and we're making targeted investments in programs like the Advancing Black Wealth Tour to help us get our tools and resources out to the community to drive sustained impact over time.
So when it comes to Black and brown people, it sounds like Chase is making it their personal responsibility not only to facilitate these events, but to educate and provide resources. So, Mr. Grant, I have to ask, what does wealth building look like for the individual?
It's home ownership, it's having that freedom to be able to start your own business and create jobs in your community, and it's having that long-term plan towards retirement, having that vision for what you want your life to be, and you have the resources to actually live it.
I'm Maisha Cairo. Thanks for sticking around. That was my recap from Chase's Advancing Black Wealth Tour. First stop was here in LA, and they're taking it national.
Do you struggle with occasional nerve aches in your hands or feet? Try Nervive Nerve Relief from the world's #1 nerve care company. Nervive tablets contain alpha-lipoic acid to relieve nerve aches, weakness, and discomfort, plus B-complex vitamins to support healthy nerve function as you age. Live life with less nerve discomfort with Nervive Nerve Relief. Learn more at nervivehealth.com. And try Nervive Pain Relieving Cream to block nerve pain signals at the source. Use as directed.
When I can't sleep, my mind just races. I think about work, the kids, but I don't think about taking melatonin because I'm afraid I'll feel groggy in the morning.
ZzzQuil Pure Z's Gummies has an optimal dose of melatonin for no next-day grogginess, so you can fall asleep naturally and wake up feeling refreshed. ZzzQuil Pure Z's Gummies for better sleep like never before. And try Pure Z Sleep plus Next Day Energy with melatonin plus extended release B vitamins.
You're listening to Areva Martin in real time on KBLA Talk 1580.
It's the Friday edition of Areva Martin in real time. We're talking to some of the filmmakers of Give Me an A. It's a collection of shorts about abortion and the horrors that can take place when abortion is not legal. And so, Lauren, I want to talk to you about The Last Store. Can you give us a brief rundown of, or it doesn't have to be brief, but just a rundown of The Last Store and what it's about?
Yeah, well, The Last Store explores a future in which, like, political extremism has overtaken the country. I thought it was kind of far in the future, but it seems close now. And it forced women to risk their lives in order to access medical help. And then in this world, it is this woman called Violeta who is running a secret abortion clinic in this very unpretentious deli. And it's like the journey of this woman trying to get their help that they need, and this woman trying to run this abortion clinic in this environment.
And so is it the last abortion clinic in the country or in the state?
Well, in this utopian world, this is the last state standing on abortion rights.
Mm-hmm.
And she is in some place that we cannot determine what it is. But women, what I wanted to create was the parallel between my African ancestors and the underground getting north to freedom. So what I'm trying to do is create this same underground way to get into the storage of this deli in order to get help. So it's kind of a metaphor between the two groups.
I see. Yeah, and it's probably because I've known you for a long time, but the last store was one of my favorite ones. And there are so many in here, and it's just, you're watching scene after scene, and each one is a different story, and it's just like you're getting slapped across the face time and again. Natasha, tell me about Abigail. I believe it. Your husband is part of it, and he has been in, I believe, Guardians of the Galaxy, and so tell us about Abigail.
Yeah, so Abigail it's a series of letters already written in 1776 between Abigail Adams and John Adams. And in the film, Sean Gunn, who is my husband, plays John Adams, and Alyssa Milano plays Abigail Adams. And it did write itself literally because they are the actual words from letters between Abigail Adams and John Adams in March of 1776. So the Declaration of Independence was written July 4th, 1776. And so before that, Abigail, who really historically did have a lot of say in politics historically, she wrote a letter asking to remember the ladies and asking for women to be included in the Declaration of Independence and the new Code of Laws, which would need to be written, and they weren't. Women were not given the right to own land. Women were not given the right to vote. Women were not given any rights whatsoever. And when you actually look at the letters between the two of them, they're incredible, and they're almost comical because it seems so unreal that these letters could have been written back before the United States even had a choice. The United States could have chosen to be more inclusive. And obviously we know from history, not only did they not choose to be inclusive, they did a real bad job of it and became sort of like the poster child for how to really screw that up. So that's what that's about.
Yeah, they.
It's interesting. Sorry, I'm leaving out an important point. Alyssa Milano, she does a lot to fight for women's rights, and she's just like an activist. And she has sat before Congress twice and started her discussion with reading the Remember the Ladies letter from Abigail Adams. So she was quite familiar with the content before I came to her with it.
Yeah, I was just going to ask you because you have several like really well-known actresses in this film. Alyssa Milano, as you mentioned, Virginia Madsen, who was one of the stars of the original Candyman. I mean, Gina Torres and Milana. I'm not sure how to pronounce her last name, but
Milana Weintraub.
Weintraub, yeah, exactly. And who is the AT&T girl, right?
Yeah, you got it.
Exactly. So you have like really just recognizable faces and big names in here. How did you go about getting all of these women in this film?
It's community. Like truly, it's community. People came together. We reached out to people every different way that we could. And once people knew what we were doing, everyone joined together as a community to make it happen. And, each individual actor, it's a big deal to put your name on a film. It's really risky to put your name on an independent film. It's really risky to do that on an independent film that has a shoestring budget and has, no big financing behind it and is going to film in like the next couple of days. I mean, Lauren, tell me if you remember exactly, but I think, we reached out to Gina Torres maybe a week before, maybe barely 10 days before you started filming.
It was the craziest thing. Giselle, which is another of the producers, and Natasha asked me to write a director's statement because my dream was to have Gina Torres, and I had no way to get into Gina. And they asked me to write this letter, and I wrote it. I had no idea what I said. And then they were like, oh, yeah, you got a meeting with Gina. And I'm like, what? And then we had that meeting, and by the end of the meeting, she said, yeah, if you can do it these dates, I am game. And those dates were 9 days later, and all I had was Gina and all these amazing women and a camera. And then we have to start, like, as friend, like, run with that. We have Gina Torres, just like, let's make this happen. And I feel like it was such a gift anyway.
Oh my God, that is incredible.
Virginia Madsen, like I talked to her the night before we were filming the introduction, and she has like a really cool cameo as sort of like the leader, the coach of the cheerleaders who guide the whole story along. And we had a phone call with her the night before we started shooting. We scheduled her COVID test to come to her house in the morning so that she could make it to set on time. And, things like that were happening everywhere. People were, this wasn't just like oh, sure, maybe I'll do this project. People were rallying and rallying hard.
No, I see. And, Gina Torres has been in so many things. She was the star of I Think I Love My Wife with Chris Rock. She's been in so many television shows, 911, Lone Star, Westworld. I mean, if you look at her IMDb page, A Black Lady Sketch Show, which coincidentally just got canceled, sadly, Star Wars, so many things. And it's funny, when I saw Milana Weintraub, did I say her name right? Weintraub?
Yeah.
So when I saw her, I was like, wait a second, I don't think I have the paid version or the free version of Amazon. I think, is this a commercial for AT&T? Because, you see her and you automatically think of AT&T because she is basically the face of AT&T. And I'm surprised, I'm sure it was difficult for her to be in this too, because with her being the face of a major corporation, her being part of something that a lot of people would consider controversial, is like it's not probably not easy to get by her representation, but she still found a way. Y'all found a way to get her in, and she found a way to make it happen, because as you said, Natasha, it's community, and y'all just hustled and you made it happen. And I haven't mentioned this yet. You guys have been on for almost an hour. I haven't mentioned this. I do make a cameo in the film.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And it's this is not this is not a self-promotion thing. It's just I just want everybody to know that it's it's really a great film, and we're going to talk more about it when we come forward. I want to talk about the challenges, as you said, Natasha. It was a shoestring budget, and I want to get into that aspect of it when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
She's the real deal in real time. You're listening to Areva Martin in real time on KBLA Talk 1580.
Have you heard about Lendistry? Lendistry is a national Black-led small business lender that is headquartered right here in LA. Once you've started your business, Lendistry provides flexible financing options starting at $50,000 to help you access the affordable capital needed to grow. Whether financing is needed to increase working capital, acquire a business, purchase inventory and equipment, or refinance debt, Lendistry has a solution for you. Lending products range from traditional business term loans and non-revolving lines of credit to SBA 7A loans and commercial real estate financing. Lendistry's pre-application process is simple and does not impact your credit score. Visit lendistry.com/KBLA to learn more and to get started with an application right from the website.
I'm James Alexander, a proud member of AARP. 1967, I was 17. That spring, my friends, the Barcades, and I made Soul Finger. It was a hit. Number 3 on the charts. That summer, we became the great Otis Redding's band. First gig, the famed Apollo. That fall, we toured. That winter found me in a morgue identifying the bodies of my bandmates and Otis Redding. My music and their memories bring me joy. The Barcades forever.
What would you call a joy that is as solemn as it is sweet and knows no bounds? A joy that's beautifully rooted in soul and resilience. This is Black joy, a joy that reflects pride and honor despite every challenge. AARP believes the power of Black joy is limitless, and we celebrate this joy supreme. Join us in celebrating Black joy at aarp.org/Black community.
Here at the Almond Joy Factory, where tropical vibes abound, we use soft, fresh-tasting coconut.
The crunchiest almonds and delicious chocolate candy.
Ah, but do you know what our most important ingredient is? Sometimes you feel like a nut.
Sometimes you don't.
Almond Joy's got nuts and something even way better than that. Yes, Almond Joy is made with almonds and joy.
Attorney Joe Cordell. Divorce forces a father to focus on what's most important, his children. You may no longer be a husband, but you'll always be a dad. In the divorce process, this comes down to 3 key concerns: physical custody, decision-making, as well as financial support. Each of these is important, and it's important that you choose a lawyer that cares as much about these issues as you do.
1455 Frazee Road, Suite 1050, San Diego, California, 92108. CordellCordell.com.
There's no time like the present. Let's get back to more of Areva Martin in real time on KBLA Talk 1580.
It's the Friday edition of Areva Martin in Real Time. We are joined by several of the filmmakers of Give Me an A film: Natasha Halevi, actor, director, writer, producer; Lauren Escandon, actor, writer, director, producer; and Francesca Maldonado, filmmaker and director. And ladies, I just want to go through each of your the pieces that you directed. And as I said, it's an anthology of films. It's a collection of really powerful commentary about the dystopian future that could take place under the current path that we're on, under our current trajectory, sadly. And so, Francesca, how did you come up with the idea for traditional? And at what point did you get involved in the project? Was it right away? Were you in the initial text thread with Natasha right after the decision came down, or at what point did you come on board, and how did you come up with traditional?
So I was in the initial text thread with Tasha, but I didn't come on board right away. Tasha had a huge group call, and most of the people that are a part of the projects was on board then. I was pretty busy, but also had some medical trauma that I was dealing with, so I wasn't sure if I was ready to face making this movie yet. But she did. She came to me with a script. I didn't write traditional. It was actually a different script at the time, but I liked it. I liked the writer. Her name is Lex Fusco. And I sat with her and said, okay, I'm down, but we got to re-workshop this. And we worked together to come up with traditional.
So what is it like? Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to cut you off. Go ahead.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
No, I was going to ask you, what's it like, especially with a topic this sensitive, to direct something that someone else has written? And I know a lot of directors like to write their own stuff that they direct, and but it's probably difficult to find that balance of trying to stay true to the original writing, and also to add your flair to it. So what was the challenge? What was the biggest challenge with that?
Lex is an incredible collaborative writer. She's super open to ideas and suggestions and changing things to make it work for the script and the budget and the casting. The things that were really important for me was I needed to have a Latina or Indigenous lead. That was like non-negotiable. There were like things about that kind of dictated the other casting.
Why was that non-negotiable for you?
Because for me, the people that have the biggest issues with IVF in general are the Catholic community, and the Catholic community is brown. At least in my personal experience in my family, that's what I'm working with, and that's what I wanted to reflect in this short. And especially the way that Indigenous people have been treated historically with abortion, and when we're talking about this overturn of Roe v. Wade, we're not just talking about abortion rights, but we're talking about autonomy. And that means sterilization beyond our knowledge and things like that specifically the Latino and Indigenous community have been dealing with very heavily and also very recently. So I wanted that to be non-negotiable for my casting. And we used Andreas Cortez, who is in Mayans, and she's amazing, actually. Yeah.
She is. She does such a good job in that piece. In traditional, and it's just, you just see recognizable people all throughout this film. Like, wait, I know them from where? Oh yeah, they were in that, and of course the big names we already talked about. And so, Lauren, as far as The Last Store, is this an idea you have thought about before, or is this something that you were already working on, or once you had the conversation and knew you're going to get involved, this is something that you just came up with at that point?
Oh my God. Okay. So one of the beautiful parts of this project is that it was a great challenge, right? For at least for me as an artist. I had the idea of The Last Store. It was a story that came to me the same night of the overturn of Roe v. Wade.
Wow.
I was in a very reactionary mode, and I wrote the outline. And then when Natasha invited me to this call, and she started describing the project, I was like, well, I have a story that doesn't really feel like it will fit.
Mm-hmm.
And I kind of pitched the idea, and Natasha was like, you're crazy, it fits. So that gave me a lot of confidence about, like, now trying to figure how to make this story from the draft that I had that was very, like, out of my guts, to make it work in synchronicity with all these other ideas that were pouring out of this woman, right? So, yeah, it was an idea that came to me, but for some reason, it was very easy to write it, not just because the idea was very clear in my mind and in my soul, but because I had the support system of this woman just kind of like helping me workshop the whole idea.
It fits perfectly, and Gina Torres is in it. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
But
I
obviously she wasn't in it at that point, but it fits perfectly. But Natasha, you directed the Wraparound and Abigail. So how did you come up with this idea to have these cheerleaders, these cheerleaders kind of walking us through all these different aspects of abortion rights and lack thereof in this case?
Yeah. Well, before we even got on our first phone call, I just was feeling like the name of the film came to me, which was Give Me an A, just like this whole idea that we would suddenly, I mean, this totally relates back to Lauren's film, this idea that we would have to, like, come up with secret ways to communicate and to say the things we want to say. Like, we can't say, I need an abortion. You have to say, I need an A, or whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
And the concept of the A being this, like, sort of branding that has been on women, like the Scarlet Letter, we just have this long history of that. And cheerleaders in the United States, with this being such a specific issue in the United States, although it affects women all around the world, and we've really found that out since we've started screening internationally. But in the United States, we have this history of cheerleaders existing to support men, and the short skirts being sexy and all this. And I wanted to show that we've, like, taken that back, so having cheerleaders tell the story or point to the stories was really important to me, to sort of show, like, this is how we're raised up in a society. And, we've kind of just barely touched on some of the systemic issues that exist in our society. And, like, it's all layered on top of each other, and it all feeds into each other. Of course, we have, like, taken cheerleading back, and, like, men are invited to be cheerleaders now too, and it's its own sport, and it doesn't just exist to bolster men's sports, but it has, like, this complicated history. And the cheerleaders really represent all of us, not just women, but all of the people who are all of the allies to women, trans men, trans women. It represents this whole group of people who are being pushed really, really, really hard right now. And you think you're pushing us down, but in the end, that's not how that's going to go. Like, we're going to get up, we're going to be stronger, we're going to be dirty, we're going to be angry, we're going to be loud, and we're going to fight. And that's what happens at the end. The cheerleaders fight and take down the patriarchy. They're not taking down men, they're taking down the patriarchy. We're not anti-men, but there's something wrong with the way we have our system set up right now that is so heavily rich white male patriarchy, and it is not working for a whole lot of people in this country. And, I think this is one of the most important topics to help us realize that, we've got abortion rights being taken away has created borders in our country. So once we have borders in our country, we have done something really bad to the fabric of our nation. So I think, I just was trying to show all of that through humans, through people, and through young women especially.
Mm-hmm. And before we run out of time, if you can give me this answer in like 10, 15 seconds, are you able to talk about the budget? How much it was? How much it cost?
Yeah. I mean, we, oh my gosh, it cost like shoestrings. I mean, we did this ourselves. We weren't able to find financing because we were moving so fast. So that's just like ridiculous. And we did it ourselves. We did it with the community. We did some fundraising, and then we just kept our fingers crossed that we'd be able to pay our actors back eventually and start doing that. And if we didn't, it didn't matter, because if we were going to put money into different organizations in different ways, we might as well put money into something where we could communicate.
Mm-hmm.
So none of it mattered. Like the money aspect of it sort of
right.
we figured things out and found things for nothing and begged and borrowed, and we did not steal anything, but we just asked for every favor, favor.
Sorry to cut you off,
People
but before we run out of time, I really need to ask you where people can see the film.
Yes, Amazon, Apple TV, Vudu, anywhere you can get on VOD, and later in the fall it will also be available on Tubi.
Natasha Halevi, Lauren Escondón, Francesca Maldonado, some of the filmmakers involved in Give Me an A film. Give Me an A. You can check it out, as Natasha just said, on Amazon, on Apple TV, and others, coming to Tubi later this fall. And of course, Tubi is free. I gladly, even though I was in the film, I gladly paid my $6 to watch it on Amazon. It's a very inexpensive price to pay. Ladies, thank you so much for your time. Best of luck to you. And you can follow Give Me an A on Instagram at Give Me an A. All the updates they have there. Coming up next, it is the Raw Report with Robin Ayers. I am Avi Bernard, and I am gone.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
I'm Esther Dillard, and here's the latest from the Black Information Network. A Texas man is being handed 90 consecutive life sentences for a deadly mass shooting at an El Paso Walmart in 2019. Patrick Crusius pled guilty to dozens of federal charges in the deaths of 23 people. The 24-year-old will serve out his life sentence